By using BPM, it is possible to design process models that can be distributed and used by the users. Now, we are going to see a practical example of a process for the management of clients' claims, claim management. To design a new process, you need to open a new blank page by opening the configuration menu, click on Process Preset, and then on New Model. Let's start from the process title by adding a text box. Here, you can type in the title and then enter it into the page. Now, you can start outlining the actual process by clicking on Start, which is the starting point. The text can be modified or moved by using the functions that will be displayed if you click the right button of the mouse. You can then proceed with the next steps. The activity object represents the tasks that have to be assigned and carried out by the users. You can keep adding activities to the process. The activities can be customized. By using the link tool, you can connect the activities of the process. You just have to drag and drop the objects from one activity to another to prioritize them. It is possible to align them horizontally to clean up the design of the process. Now, you can name the process model and enter it in the properties list. Lastly, you have to specify that the starting point is the registration object. Now, you can publish the first version of your process. The second important aspect of the process are the variables, which represents the data that are managed by the process itself. BPM allows you to create a form that contains the process data that are relevant to its execution. By clicking on the Add button, you can create a new variable called claim number and mark it as numerical. You can drag and drop it in the design area to place it into the design. You can proceed to create more variables, depending on what information you need to display in your process. You can customize the size and the position of each variable, as well as many other characteristics that involve its performance. Usually, processes are designed according to paper documents or Excel files that have already been generated for the company. It is possible to place and align the variables. The variables can be grouped into subcategories to bring order to the design. You can also organize the variables into categories, which correspond to the pages. These categories can be renamed and created anew. The variables of the module can also be grouped to avoid repeating them and to easily manage the detail lines. Once you've created the group structure, you can add new variables by dragging and dropping them into the table. The variables created for the process have to be assigned to the single process activities. To do so, you can export them on a file. It is also possible to export them page by page. Now you can import the variables into the activities. You can see the variables that are to be compiled when starting the process. Now you can set the necessary rules. For example, you can set some of the variables to be mandatory. The following activities can be assigned some variables, which can be dragged and dropped directly on the form. Please note that you can activate alternative paths that depend on the settings of the process. You can generate a new side activity. You can decide to activate this activity only when the vigilance variable is set on yes. To do so, you need to set a certain parameter for the selected connection. You can now publish the second version of the process. The system will generate a warning message because you have skipped one of the necessary steps. First, you need to specify how names are assigned to the processes. In this case, you can call the process the same name as the variant, namely claim number. To start a process, you need to start from the to-do list. Here, you can open the Operations menu, click on New Process, and then on Claims Workflow, which is the process you have just defined. The system opens a form with the data that are necessary to start the process. You can now fill out the fields, making sure to fill out all the mandatory fields. You can start the process by clicking on Complete. In the to-do list, the first process activity will appear in bold. By clicking on the process name, you will be able to set the progress state of the process. Any activity in yellow is an activity currently in progress. The rest of the process has not been carried out yet. In the Variables tab, you can see the information that is being collected, which will then be saved in this window. By clicking on Do It, you can run the current activity. At this point, BPM asks you to enter the information required by this step. If the mandatory fields are not filled out, you won't be able to proceed. As you can see, the active activity is vigilance, in compliance with the conditions that have been set in the process, since the vigilance setting has been set to yes. By clicking on Do It, you can proceed and verify that the activities in gray have already been carried out, the ones in yellow are in progress, and the ones in green have been scheduled but have not been carried out yet. In the management activity, you can enter the information as a detail table. It is also possible to suspend an activity temporarily by saving the information that has already been entered but without proceeding with the process flow. Once the process is complete, no activities will appear in the to-do list. It is possible to search for completed activities by setting the research filters in the left side of the screen. Thank you for watching. We'll be happy to answer your questions.